Hello again. Chris Lee of Southeastern 14 here to react to some big SEC and college baseball news. As of Sunday morning, the Houston Chronicle reports that Texas A&M is hiring its old hitting coach, Michael Earley, to replace Jim Schlossnagle, who is now gone to Texas with the rest of his staff, not named Michael Earley. We're going to react to that and get into some of the implications. But first, a reminder, our channel presented by BetOnline, your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. From baseball, golf, soccer, right to the top fights in UFC and MMA and boxing, every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads while games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today, get in on the action, use promo code BELIEVE. That is BLEAV for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online, the game starts here. Well, as you know, it has been a whirlwind for Texas A&M baseball this week. The Aggies lost the national title in Game 3 to Tennessee by a 6-5 final. That was on Monday. By Wednesday, Jim Schlossnagle out the door for Texas. And boy, it has been a week in Aggieville. You've had the controversy about, was Jim Schlossnagle working for Texas while he was being paid by Texas A&M? You had stuff about his relationship with Trev Alberts and some comments that implies that maybe he was, I don't know if pushed out the door would be the right terminology, but certainly not encouraged to, in strong terms, to stay. That's all out there this week. You can find that on Twitter. But the upshot is this: Jim Schlossnagle left for Austin, and he took his top three assistants. That's Early, that's Noah Cain, that's pitching coach Max Weiner to Austin, which left A&M in a bind. And I'm sure that Alberts looked at some big names because this is a top 10, top 15 job in the country. Some people thought Dan Hefner at Dallas Baptist made sense, but he turned him down, it appears. And that left A&M in a bad spot. Again, great program, great history, great tradition, great talent, but here's the problem. It's the transfer portal era. And so guys are looking to move on if they don't know their situation, and a lot of guys jumped in the portal quickly. And Kendall Rogers tweeted something out this morning of interest, really caught my eye and the eye of a lot of other folks too. It was a two-part tweet, and I'll break these down in two parts. The first part, Kendall tweeted, "I expect every A&M player in the portal to stay put given this news." Now, let's look at the A&M guys in the portal. That's shortstop Ali Camarillo, second baseman Kaeden Kent, center fielder Jace LaViolette, third baseman Gavin Grahovac, and left fielder Caden Sorrell. Now, there's more than that. There's about 12 or 13 total. But that right there is 5 nights of A&M's lineup last year. Braden Montgomery going to be gone to the draft. I think Jackson Appel will be too. But those 5 guys, all starters to end the season for A&M and all really good players. I would think most of those guys, and particularly LaViolette, who might be the number one player picked in the draft next year, and Grahovac, a freshman third baseman who hit over 20 home runs for A&M. Those guys, from what I've been hearing, are guys that are commanding 7-figure offers in the portal. I don't think that's high 7 figures. I think that's probably just over $1 million. But in this day and age of college baseball, you cannot just add a hitter like those two very quickly. Well, now that they're in the portal, you can. And so I'm thinking that's part of the reason that A&M had to make a pretty quick move, and you probably needed to. And so if Kendall is right, that's a lot of talent that A&M can get back pretty quickly. You get those guys back in the lineup, I think, with the pitching they've got returning, and that also includes Isaac Morton, who was also in the portal. And they also had some other guys in the portal, too, that were reserves. Max Kaufer, their backup catcher, who I would presume might start next year. Jett Johnston, an outfielder, or Johnston, excuse me, and about 4 or 5 other guys that I don't know much about, to be honest. But that's a lot of talent in the portal. If you get those guys back, along with the pitchers that I would presume are returning, you're probably looking at a preseason top 10 team. Who knows, maybe top 5 team. And that's not all. They got another guy in the portal, Penn transfer Wyatt Hensler. I guess that's how you pronounce his name. Hensler, maybe. Anyway, he's a big-time third baseman from Penn. I'm not sure if he was the Ivy League Player of the Year, but if he wasn't, he was in that discussion. He's a guy that's thought to be a top 5 round in the Major League Baseball draft, a big-time talent who will help A&M next year, presuming they are able to lock him down. Another part of this, the MLB draft is coming up. That's July 14th to 16th. The Aggies have the 8th ranked recruiting class in the country, according to Perfect Game. So you're always in competition with the majors for your top recruits. And it makes it a little bit easier for a guy to go to the majors and pass up college if you don't know who your coach is. So I'm presuming that that's a big reason that A&M acted pretty quickly in this. The second part of Kendall Rogers' tweet was interesting. He said, keep an eye on a Power 5 head coach to be Early's top assistant. I have no idea who that would be. And I'm presuming you can probably rule out anybody in the SEC and probably rule out most of the ACC. I'm guessing maybe that's a former Pac-12 program, maybe somebody in the Big Ten. But that's very interesting because Early is 36. Now, that's not the youngest guy to ever be a head coach, probably in the SEC, but I'm betting it's close. You don't see a lot of guys hired as head coaches that aren't at least into their 40s, but that's the case here. And now, look, worked for Tennessee. Tony Vitello, I believe, was 38 when the Vols hired him. Now, that's probably going to be a difficult needle to thread, but just saying, you do see some very young head coaches when they are hired that have some success, and that's the one that comes to mind. Billy Lucci of Texags also tweeted, by the way, a wildly popular move within the program and a guy who won Trev Alberts over in a big way during his interview process. So obviously those are things that count. And again, that touches on some of the stuff that Kendall Rogers hit on with the quote about guys maybe staying put in the portal. Now, as for the hire itself, a little surprised that A&M didn't get a bigger name, but it was a weird situation. Again, the portal and the guys that had jumped in the portal give that a sense of urgency. You can't sit and wait around maybe forever if you can't get a premium name. And I'm sure that they looked at some, but at some point you just got to make a move and move on. And so what kind of head coach will he be? I don't know, but I will tell you this. I've watched A&M's lineups for 3 years since he's been there, and I am super impressed with their approach. If you have watched our videos before, you've heard me talk about how A&M, those guys almost never chase bad pitches. They wait and wait and wait and wait. They take a ton of walks, and then they get a pitch in the spot, and my goodness, they will pound it from there. I think they're hitting probably over the last 3 years that he's been there, probably been a top 5 hitting team in the country. Now, last year's team, 2023, wasn't quite as good. They kind of reloaded a little bit, but their team in 2022 and last year, those teams hit the daylight out of the ball. They were good. They were patient. They were not over aggressive. But when they got a pitch, they didn't watch a lot of good pitches go by. It's almost like they were very prepared to hit and hit something hard, which it seemed like they did very often. And you go back, he's also been a hitting coach at Arizona State for Tracy Smith. He went to Indiana, played for Smith when he was in Indiana, I think, and then went to Arizona State, and I would presume had a big hand in the development of Spencer Torkelson, who was the number 1 overall pick in the Major League Draft a few years back, and, of course, is in the Detroit Tigers system. Also, he will benefit from facilities upgrades. There's about $80 million worth of facilities upgrades coming to Bluebell Field, which is always pretty nice from what I've seen on TV. So that's going to help too. Again, program with a lot of success. NCAA tournament 17 of the last 18 years. College World Series 8 times total. Runner-ups this year and been there 2 of the last 3 years. We'll wait and see how that goes. Going to watch with interest Texas A&M's hire of hitting coach Michael Earley. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the subscribe and the like buttons. Those help us out. Enable your notifications so you will get your SEC baseball content when we have it. I'm Chris Lee. Thanks for watching us here at Southeastern 14, presented by BetOnline.